This is in the middle of nowhere. I mean, she indeed did have privacy, but she didn't feel private. This house and another glass house that Mies is supposedly, oh, incidentally, the Farnsworth house is Mies van der Rohe's only private house in America, and a very important landmark because of that. Philip Johnson was inspired to build his own glass house. Now, partly because of the Farnsworth house, also supposedly he saw a sketch Mies was doing over at the Bauhaus. He visited the Bauhaus, and he saw a sketch that Mies van der Rohe did of a glass house he never built. And Philip Johnson, it is said by non-admirers of Johnson, who was something of a copyist, that this is what gave him the idea. This, however, was a weekend house. This was really a party house. He lived in New York, he went up to New Canaan. This, incidentally, is a house you can visit. Has anybody? You can reserve. Go online, it's Glass House. I assume it's Glass House, C-O-M probably. I just typed in Glass House. It's about, you take the New York Central up to New Canaan, across the street is a visitor center, and you're driven to the house. In groups of no more than 11 people, that's what the van holds. It's a fabulous site. It's a wonderful house, which will reserve about 8. And it's been, I think it opened about 5 years ago. Here's how you approach it. Now, at this end, I'm not showing the photograph. At this side, the land falls down, and there's kind of, foliage and the sculpture garden and water down there. All the way up here, fairly far up, is a main road, which wasn't there originally, so that this was more secluded than it was further good. Now, when you drive on the main road, you can see the house from there. But you approach it through one of these small paths. This is what it looks like at night, which is a jewel box. And here's the living area. He has the conventional Mies van der Rohe, the 2 Mies chairs, and the lounge, and the coffee table, and the ottoman, modern lamp, but he has sort of broken it up with a very traditional painting, the 19th century landscape on the easel. Here's the one, the rounded shape, in sort of almost in the middle of the fireplace, and on the opposite side, it holds the very small bathroom, the shower, which is heated by the fireplace, except the main heating is with pipes under the floor. Here's looking in the other direction, the dining area, the counter for it. He has sculpture and plants obviously thrive there. Here's the plan. This is not for somebody who's a cook. I don't imagine he cooked. I think he had things catered. And what you see here is the plan. Here's I didn't show you the sleeping area, large bed on this side, a desk here. Here's the very small, the bathroom and the fireplace. Now, this is really what the house was for. This is Philip Johnson, this is his companion. I'm not sure, this might be Edgar Kaufman of the Museum of Modern Art. I don't remember what he looked like. This is where he held, apparently sometimes wild parties. It was a big hangout for the arts community, for the indie arts and design community. But how can anybody sleep? You can see if you look closely, this is where the bed was. How can anybody sleep like that in the open? Well, this is what was across from it, and I'm showing you. Here's the path. So you walk across, it's, 100 feet. And there is this bunker, which really looks like a bunker, and there are a couple of windows that look like ship's windows, little circular windows on the other side. Inside, this is the plan. There's this room, the guest room, and here's sort of a lounge and library with a lot of books. I mean, he had tons of books, and only part of them were here. And a laundry room, amenities like that. Okay, this is the guest room. Word has it that this is where Johnson slept. As opposed to in the very open thing. So this, at least he had this choice. This is totally enclosed, all fabric-covered walls. So if he wanted to get away from the lack of privacy, he had privacy. Okay, this is what Mies van der Rohe built. His first international style building in America. These are still standing in Chicago, although they're dwarfed by what came after them. But this was 1948 and 51, very, very avant-garde. And people want to get into it. People who loved the idea of a very new modern place. And of course, well, if you know Chicago, we have a gorgeous view. This is on Lakeshore Drive, overlooking the water. So you don't mind having the glass windows. I'm showing you a few key buildings that were built around the time. This was an amalgamation of architects. Corbusier and Alvar Aalto dropped down. Corbusier didn't like that they didn't use his full plan. He was very interested in building mass housing and skyscrapers, and didn't get to it until very late in his career, have anything to do with that. But this is a combination of international style and kind of organic form over here. This, I should eliminate the building on the left, which went up later. I should have put on an earlier photograph, but I wanted to show you a clear view. Who knows Lever House? Now who knows the Seagram Building? You don't know the Seagram Building? Okay, all right, that's bad. You have to walk around New York. This is because people in the afternoon class who knew the Seagram Building, which is on Park Avenue and 53rd Street, this building is practically across the street. And one student said, gee, is this still here? Which means once so many buildings of the same scale and general look built up around it, you don't even notice something that was revolutionary. This was a radical new thing in New York in 1952. This was Skidmore, Owings and Merrill, Gordon Bunshaft. And this was an international skyscraper with a section here, a very low section of, I never knew what this contained. The lobby used to have design exhibitions going on. Part of this area beyond, this is the lobby, and beyond it is an open plaza with trees and sculptures on exhibit. And up here is, I assume, a private garden for for occupants of the building. Lever Brothers are the company that manufactures ivory soap and a million other things. And this was their headquarters. But this is what Mies van der Rohe, I'm putting things in chronological sequence. Mies was out at IIT and built Crown Hall among other buildings, and you're seeing the characteristics of a modern building which is being very open, even though this has stairs leading up to it. It doesn't have the kind of stairs that a neoclassical building like the Metropolitan Museum or the library have, which are like a grand temple, or the Supreme Court, which is saying you're coming up the stairs to worship at the feet of great architecture, or to come into space. A modern building is more inviting you in at the same level, even if, as here, it's raised a little bit. Okay, this is probably the most famous, if you're asked to pick one building in international style. First building that comes to mind for most people would be the Seagram Building, partly because it's Mies van der Rohe. The reason why it's Mies and Johnson is because a foreign architect, an architect is not permitted to build in another country without having the plans have to be signed by a local architect, somebody licensed in that country. So the way all these architects now work in any other country is they have a local architect signing off on the plans. Sometimes the local architect really contributes to the design. Sometimes they're really there to sign off on the plans so that they can be officially approved to build. Johnson contributed some, but this is really Mies aesthetic, yeah.
What street is this on?
Who?
What street is this on?
This is on exactly, Park Avenue, and this is 52nd Street, this is 53rd, wait a minute, let me think. 52nd, 53rd, 52nd to 53rd. The Four Seasons restaurant is here, the Brasserie restaurant is on this side. Directly across is the, it's not the New York Athletic Club, it's the Yacht Club. I think the New York Life Club. It's a couple of blocks north of the Waldorf Astoria. So you see, walking up Park Avenue, at the foot of Park Avenue. That's another thing, I won't show it. If you're facing down Park Avenue, the building that was the Pan Am building and is now the MetLife building, that was Gropius's last building in America, built on top of Grand Central Station. You walk from up there, a couple of blocks up, well, 50th Street, the Waldorf Astoria, which is an example of Art Deco. Then after the Waldorf Astoria, you see St. Bart's, which is modern Moorish architecture. And then you see what now line Park Avenue are more or less more modern buildings. It was at this point buildings like this, which were sort of old-style office buildings. And so this was more dramatic a change than it was, more dramatic a change than it is now, except that this was the first time anybody did a plaza like this. He was taking advantage of the allowance of if you set back your building. Normally, I had told you about setbacks and skyscrapers. If you set back, you can build taller. Well, what he did is took all his setbacks here and then built straight up. So you have this enormous open space, which is every other building at the time was going up to here. Now some of them are set back. None of them have as large a plaza. But this also is a much more elegant building than any of those that attempted to copy it, partly because the Seagram building was built with the money of the Seagram liquor family, a Canadian family, and they named the Bronfmans. They had a great deal of money. Liquor is very profitable. And Bronfman's daughter, named Phyllis Lambert, was an architecture buff. And she started the Canadian Center for Architecture. She talked her father into hiring Mies van der Rohe. She knew him or had admired his work, brought him in, convinced him to do it, and she kind of oversaw the building or directed it to spare no expense. So that elements here, these are bronze elements. So it's not just any of them. The finishing details are done in bronze. The glass is the costliest glass. The marble is the best they could find. So that all of the detailing in the building is better than what you saw in the building that was just put up to be a glass box. This is the entry, and here we're looking at this is the Yacht Club across from here. We're looking at a Beaux-Arts building across, and here is the inside-outside feeling of architecture, the openness of the space. And you can walk in here, last. And this is a typical office at the time, where that Barcelona table, this was coming in from Knoll. One of the things that was true was, once you had glass boxes going up, even the most unsophisticated client, before they hired a designer, knew that you have a building like this, you don't put in 18th century furniture, and I mean, it doesn't all look right, and maybe you want to have something that's a little bit more elegant than plain metal. What Steelcase was doing then was plain metal office furniture. Knoll bought into this, and this was the kind of thing that furnished all the offices.